quarterback competition. I guess it's been a few days of practice now. What are your initial thoughts, especially now that you have Payton on the field?
Yeah, I've been pleased with their progression and what they're doing. I think they're understanding what we're trying to do offensively a little bit more, especially the little unique parts of it. We still got a long way to go before we figure out who's going to be our starting quarterback. But I think all of them have shown flashes. We got to be a little bit more consistent. I think we're doing a better job of making sure that our eyes are getting in the right spot, and getting our reads from that standpoint. Been pleased on the last couple of days, especially in our RPO games, how they're taking advantage of some opportunities when those present themselves. But, there's so many factors that go into being a quarterback. And it's not just about the way you're throwing it or hitting the deep ball or working through your progression. There's the leadership side of it, and you got to control all of those factors. So we're still a long ways to go before we figure out who that's going to be. But I've liked the progression that we're making and the progress that we're making, and we just got to continue to keep doing that each and every day.
Coach, talk about the wide receiver play. How are some of the new guys fitting in, and maybe some of the holdovers that have stepped up early on?
Yeah, I really feel like the last several days, practice 2, I thought I saw some sparks in there and guys making some plays, and I think they're building each and every day. We got to be a little bit more detail-oriented in some of our routes, making sure that we're pushing to depth and understanding spacing and where, the grass and the holes and zones that are going to sit, finding those areas. And then, some of the pre-snap things where we're getting certain looks, being able to take advantage of that. That's just the details of what we do offensively. But I've been pleased with the progress. I think we're really battling at the top of our route. We're putting our foot in the ground. We're coming back. When we have the ability to go deep, they're taking advantage of that. And so I've been really, really pleased with that side of it. They just got to continue to keep coming. We got to be a little bit more consistent with our hands and our depths of our routes. But I think they're making really good progress right now.
He already asked my question.
Yeah, I've got one, of course. Ron was just saying, we were talking to Ron just a minute ago, and he said he had 16, 17 guys he feels pretty good about. He's trying to add another 7 or 8. As an offensive guy, do you look at it that way? I mean, do you have 16 guys that you trust right now, or is it different?
Well, I mean, for us, we got a lot of battles going on for positions, right? Whether you're talking about the receivers, whether you're talking about guys up front, we got a quarterback battle going on. Running backs are really, really doing a great job. But, as a running back, we're probably going to be a little bit more by committee in that sense. Our tight ends have really added a factor to us. We've got some really athletic tight ends and finding unique ways and good ways to get them the football and get them involved. And so I think we've got a lot of depth that we've got to continue to keep building on, right? And we're going to see those guys start separating themselves as camp goes on. But I think we've got the battle parts of it, I think has kept guys really in tune, really focused, and really growing as a group, and we got to continue to do that as an offensive unit.
Coach, you and Coach Freeze both have operated offenses that ran at a very high pace. Do you have aggressive goals for tempo with the offense here at Auburn?
Well, we do. I mean, obviously, we've got to make sure it's matching up with our personnel and what we're going to be as this football team, offensively, defensively, and special teams, but we like to play with pace. I think our guys getting used to that, that's a totally different way of playing offense than a lot of them are used to. And so I think we're doing some good things. We got to get set faster. We got to get our eyes back on the sideline quicker. And then we've got to really mentally rep that play in our head in a manner that when we're set, we understand what's fixing to happen, what's fixing to go on, and how to react to what we're getting defensively. And so that comes with progress. That comes with reps. I think our guys are doing a better job of it. But, yes, we would like to play that way.
You mentioned running backs just a moment ago. Damari and Jeremiah specifically is 2 guys that haven't played a ton of college football yet. Jeremiah hadn't played at all, actually. Just what have you seen from them so far in fall camp and just their progress early on?
Yeah, I think we've got a talented running back room. I mean, those guys, each one of them are bringing different things to the table. And when you start talking about Cobb, I mean, he had a couple of really good runs today. You see it. He's got a burst. He plays with speed. He's got good vision. The biggest thing for him as a freshman is just he wasn't here in the spring. So just trying to figure out what the process is, how to play fast, how to see things. You think it's fixing to be a big gap, and then all of a sudden you wait, you delay, that thing starts closing in a hurry at this level. So understanding when to put your foot in the ground, and you got to run through some things and stay up in that run scheme and not feel like you got to bounce some things and always try to get outside. So I thought he has done a really good job, but you look at our backs, I thought Brian had some good runs, Damari had some good runs. I mean, all those guys are contributing, and I feel good about where they're headed right now.
Philip, Hugh has said it would be about 5 days of kind of equal reps at QB and then trim things down from there. Kind of what is your perspective on what y'all are going to do to maybe go back and take a look at things and then trim it down? And what are you looking for from them in the scrimmage on Saturday?
Well, I just want to see somebody take control and really, take a step forward, right? Separate themselves. And that's what you're looking for in your quarterback position, a guy that's going to lead, a guy that's going to make plays. He doesn't have to be Superman, but he does have to be consistent in his play and his decision-making and taking care of the football and then moving us down the field and staying ahead of chains. When we do that, then we're always going to be effective. And so the quarterback that does those things at a more consistent pace will be the guy that's going to win the job. And so, like I said, right now it's too early to call it. I think they're all competing. I think they're all doing a great job of that. But we still got a little bit of time, thank goodness, and then we got to figure it out from there.
Philip, I know you guys hadn't put on full pads, gone through those things, but what have you seen from the offensive line to this point, and how far has that group come since you guys stepped on the field for the first time in the spring?
Yeah, they've come a long way and still are. We still got some new faces up there, guys that are working in. But playing offensive line is all about gelling as a unit, right? And we got some great battles that are going on up front right now. And guys are feeling that pressure of, hey, I got to be on top of my game each and every day. But for us to do what we want to do offensively, those 5 guys have got to lead the way for us. And so it's a vital part. I think we're going to develop a lot of good depth in this competition era that we're in right now in fall camp. But it's vitally important at some point in there, guys start separating and those guys start gelling and getting on the same page. And let me say this, I mean, we're, 4 days into it? We still got a long ways to go. We're trying to install, especially in our run game, we're trying to put in the foundation of it, right? So we don't have a ton of run game in right now, but we want to make sure Ron's giving us a bunch of different looks and a bunch of different movements, which is great for us to be able to kind of grow and teach off of and coach off of. And those guys have done a good job of handling that.
Coach, having been around this game a pretty long time, you've seen.
Thank you for calling me old.
Well, I've been around it a lot longer than you have. So.
Hey, I treasure it. Every day's a blessing, baby.
But have you over the years really adapted to the sometimes radical changes in the way the game is played?
Honestly, that's been football all the way through, right? I mean, everybody's looking for an edge. I remember when, Yeoman and those guys all of a sudden went to the triple option, and that changed the game. And then defenses, they studied up on that, and then it kind of made its way through. And the game is always ever evolving, and we want to try to stay ahead of the curve and find unique and good ways to get our guys in opportunities to have success. That is our challenge as coaches, is to coach guys up, lead them, grow them, but put them in situations to have success. And so I love that part of the game because it's the chess match. This is how they are defending us. How can we take advantage of it? And then we got to go out and execute and be on the same page to get that done.
Obviously, we've seen Payton and Robby as starters before. We haven't seen Holden. From your perspective, what does he bring that's, I guess, a little bit different than the other two, and what does he need to do better if he's going to be the guy?
Well, I don't know that I'd say that he does better than the other two. I'll talk about his strengths, and I think he is a natural thrower. Ball just zips off of his hand. He stands tall in the pocket. I think he's doing a really good job of working through his progression, putting his eyes in the right spot, not hanging too long. I think he has the ability to do some things with his feet, be able to get outside when things break down. But the best part of his game is mentally being on point with what he's got and then I think, again, his arm is really natural when it comes off. He spins it tight. He can hit small windows. He can push the ball down the field, and I think he does a great job of that.
Back to the receivers, the new guys, Caleb, Shane, and Jair, are they settling into spots? It looked like Caleb's getting some work both in the slot and outside.
Yes, I think all three of those guys are doing some really good things. You started with Caleb. I think he does have the ability to play inside out. He's really fluid, natural route runner. I think, he's coming from a coaching family. His dad's been a defensive coordinator in Texas for a lot of years. So he's grown up around the game, so he understands spacing. He knows where to find holes and get into them. He's got really smooth, natural hands. And so for him, it's just picking up the offense, and he's been in the film room all summer long. I mean, he stepped out on the field and I thought really did some really good things as far as just being able to pick up a sign, know what he's got to do from an assignment standpoint, and then go out and executing it. Still got to continue to work him in. When you start talking about Jair and Shane, I think both of those two guys, day one, I think their head was spinning a little bit, and then I think they've settled in each and every day, and you look at some of the plays that they've made throughout the last couple of days, they've really kind of started bringing some attention to themselves. I thought Shane really had a good day yesterday. Had a couple of big catches, some high point things, some back shoulder things, really natural in that way. He's a long receiver with huge hands, but did some nice area work right there. Jair, again, you just see him every day making improvement, making good decisions within his route, being physical at the top of it, knowing how to separate, and does have the speed to get over the top. So those guys are going to continue to get opportunities. We want to see them continue to progress.
With Burton, going back to him, just his background being a guy who went to Ohio State and they have that kind of tradition. What has it kind of done for him to be able to plug and play kind of immediately? Just, you also talked about his dad being a coach as well, just being able to pick up things really quick.
I think for him it's just the understanding of the game, understanding how to be a professional about it. I mean, he's one of the hardest working dudes. I mean, this summer, he's getting his lifts and he's getting all the extra parts of it. But, I mean, he is in there. He's on the jug machine. He's on the Monarch. He is getting with the quarterbacks. He's just every day, it's almost like you've got to, all right, it's time to leave the building. Go get you some rest. Go get you something to eat. He's that type of worker, and he's very professional about the way he handles his business. So I think more than anything, his discipline in that sense is the thing that is kind of progressing him up.
Another receiver question. We've heard Jay Fair's name a good bit here at the beginning of camp. Where has he maybe progressed from the spring till now? And I guess, when you took over the offense, what did you see out of his skill set that you liked?
Well, I think he's electric, right? And I thought he put on some good weight and some good muscle this summer. Dom's done a heck of a job with those guys. But as you look at Jay, I think he's playing with a lot more confidence, playing a lot faster, being decisive in his decisions. He's always had good hands. He's not scared of anything. So if it's catching the ball across the middle, he doesn't mind it. You put the ball out there on the edges with him in any type of now screen or whatever, he's a step away from breaking it. And so I think he's just accepted his role and not acting like, hey, I'm not a guy that's got a ton of experience type deal. I'm stepping in here with a mindset of trying to go win a job and be the best player I can be and help our football team win. And I think he's done a good job of leadership in that way.
You mentioned Holden's strengths. Where have you seen Robby since the spring, his progression through the summer, and kind of what he's shown up these first few days?
I honestly think Robby has thrown the ball better this fall camp. I've seen him progress in that manner. He's hit a good sum of deep balls. He's been a little more consistent on his underneath stuff. And that's an area that he wants to improve, and he's got a big arm. But it's the consistency of the fundamentals that kind of go into that part of it, and he's worked really hard on that. But I think he has really operated. I think he's doing a really good job of trying to lead and be positive and do the things that we're asking him to do. And he comes out. He loves competing, so he's going to come out and compete every day. When he pulls it down, you better hold on because he can do some things with it from that standpoint. So, but I think his biggest progression has been probably in the throwing side of it.
Sticking with quarterbacks, first opportunity to work with Payton Thorne. What would you say his strengths are so far?
Yeah, again, I'm going to go back and kind of reiterate what I talked about a little bit from one to the receivers. You want to talk about a guy that is professional about the way he goes after his work. He's another guy that you got to run out of the building. He's always watching tape. He's always studying. He's at home. He'll text me, hey, what do I read on this, or what am I doing on that? I saw this on tape. You know, how are we progressing through this? He wants to be on top of every detail that is involved in our offense. And he's seeing things right now at a really good rate. And you got to remember, he wasn't here in the spring. And so some of the things that he's picked up on, and we've got to get everybody else around that to be on the same page with him. But I think he does a great job with his leadership. He's disciplined, and he's professional about what he does.
Medical Properties Trust, at the very heart of healthcare.